My husband's best man has been cheating on my best friend for 2 years. This can't end well. I need some genuine advice and reassurance. The rage I'm feeling right now is overwhelming, and I need to lay all of this out. My husband, 24 male, and I, 24 female, moved to Alaska earlier this year after months of planning a 3,000-mile move. Back home, we had a very tight-knit friend group. My husband's best friend, who we'll say is Ralph, has been in a serious relationship with my friend Rachel for 2 years. Ralph moved up to Alaska first in January of 2026 for work and stayed in crew housing. Ralph and Rachel made long distance work, and we all assumed that Ralph would get settled and eventually move Rachel up here. When Ralph's crew housing ended, he needed a roommate because of Alaska's high cost of living. My husband and I wanted our own married space, so living with him was not an option. Enter Maggie, a girl from back home in the military who was relocating to Alaska and shared a passion for aviation with the guys. Maggie and Ralph decided to rent a place together. I see where this is going. Rachel was uncomfortable with this from the start and worried about Maggie's intentions. My husband and I constantly reassured Rachel, telling her Ralph loved her and he would never cheat. Once we moved up, we hung out with Ralph and Maggie. Maggie made a few odd comments like, "Ralph knows how I am," or "Ralph needs to get us a dining table." But people back home just told me that's just how Maggie is. Whenever I brought up Rachel, Ralph said that he planned to move her up here soon. Maggie never questioned it. But the red flags escalated. Over the 4th of July weekend, Ralph and Maggie went camping together. I assumed that Rachel knew, but Rachel texted me saying she was worried about Ralph camping alone. I mentioned that he was with Maggie, which revealed that Ralph had lied to Rachel, claiming he was by himself with no cell service. Classic.
Typical.
Rachel was furious, but my husband and I calmed her down, thinking it was just some kind of miscommunication. They talked it out, and I apologized to Ralph the following weekend for getting involved. He told me it was no big deal. Now on to the breakdown. The next weekend was my husband's birthday. We all went kayaking, and we ended up at a bar. While the guys were loading the kayaks, Maggie and I went inside. I mentioned how much Rachel loved the photos that I sent her of the guys. Maggie looked confused and asked, "Who's Rachel to Ralph?" I said, "They've been together for 2 years." She asked, "Exclusively or on and off?" I said, "Exclusively, 100%. Maggie completely spiraled. She revealed that she and Ralph had been sleeping together for 2 years. Before any of us moved, Ralph would sneak Maggie into his room through the window. When they moved together in Alaska, things escalated. Ralph began love bombing her and sleeping with her regularly. Whenever Maggie asked about Rachel after seeing my text messages or posts, Ralph told Maggie that Rachel was a nobody or just said to mind her business. Maggie was horrified. She didn't realize that Ralph was in a committed relationship. She agreed immediately that Rachel needed to know, and she wanted to also expose him. When my husband walked into the bar, he could tell I was distraught, and he pulled me aside. I broke down and I told him everything. He stayed calm and told me that we would tell Rachel together so I wouldn't have to carry this alone. Meanwhile, Maggie was so overwhelmed by the reality of what Ralph had done that she threw up at the bar. Now I'm sitting here carrying this explosive secret. How do I break the news to my best friend, who was set to be my bridesmaid, that her boyfriend of 2 years, who's my husband's best man, has been leading a double life this entire time? What a freaking mess. What a mess. These people should have to clean up their own mess, you know? Share your thoughts, you guys, but we're making a pit stop. My favorite place, the Reddit comments. Someone said, "Personally, I think Maggie should be the one to tell her, then they can confront the narcissist a-hole together. If I were either of them, I wouldn't want to miss the look on his face when he walks in a room and they're both there waiting for him. Literally fly her out. I will pay for the ticket. Get Rachel out there." Oh, that would be a movie. OP responded and said, unfortunately, Rachel was left back home 3,000 miles away. An in-person confrontation is impossible. I don't think Maggie has it in her to be the one to talk to Rachel. She feels so heartbroken by Ralph and she's never met Rachel. I know it's gonna be me who tells Rachel. As her best friend, that kind of makes sense. Next comment, is your husband sure this is the best man he wants? I mean, to have this kind of guy stand beside him while he's making a commitment to you, not exactly in good taste, is it? It takes a certain type of person to do what he's done to 2 women, no less. I would seriously be questioning him in the wedding party at all. That's a nice way of me saying that I wouldn't. This won't stay a secret for long if Maggie's reaction is anything to go by, but Rachel has to be told. You can't be her friend and keep the secret from her, so where are things now? Has Maggie confronted him? If it ends up being you that tells Rachel, do it in a safe space. Let her know you love and support her and that you and your husband did not know anything. Though I will say from reading that your husband has reacted remarkably calm and seemingly unsurprised. It's strange that this guy would be his best man, but your husband was in the dark about this huge thing he was doing. And she will want to know if he's at the wedding party. I hope you have a good answer for her. Oh God, yeah, what do you do?
What do you do? Go.
That is your best friend and he royally messed up. What do you possibly do? I remember reading a very similar story to this of a cheating thing and if they should be kept in the wedding party or not. Because it is a best friend and you're like, you made a mistake, but does that mean our friendship's over when... Yeah, I mean, I think I've read multiple stories like this, to be honest, because this is the world we live in. How fun for us. Sarcasm, guys. She responded to that and she said, for context, my husband and I actually went to the courthouse to get legally married before our big move to Alaska. Next month, we're flying back home for our actual wedding ceremony to read our vows and celebrate with all our friends and family. My husband is completely distraught. He has strong morals and feels sick that he spent months defending Ralph to Rachel, completely unaware of who Ralph really was. I told my husband to take some time to decide what he wants to do about Ralph being his best man. I love my husband and I'm standing by whatever he decides, but he needs time to make sense of this betrayal. All right, and the next comment, it says that OP explains more about how Ralph would sneak Maggie into his room through the window. She said, my husband and Ralph lived together through college. My husband was in the basement, so he was shocked this happened. Oh, that makes so much more sense. Crazy. He's been hiding this from his best friend for years. Naughty, naughty. All right, we got an update and it came the next day, which is August 10th, 2026, by the way. This is a new story. I woke up this morning on very little sleep, preparing myself for the hard conversation I knew I was going to have with Rachel. When I finally checked my phone, I had multiple missed calls from her and a single text saying, he broke up with me. My heart sank, but for a brief second, I thought Ralph had actually done the right thing and confessed. All I wanted to do was comfort her, so I called her back immediately. She was sobbing. The very first thing she asked me was, did you know? I replied, I'm just glad he was the one who actually told you everything. She paused and said, what do you mean everything? My stomach dropped. I asked her what he actually had said, and she told me that Ralph simply said he did not want to be with her anymore. No confession, no accountability, just a coward's exit to protect himself before the truth came out. I snapped and said, he didn't tell you the truth. I laid it all out, that he had been cheating on her for the 2 entire years with Maggie, and Maggie had no idea that they were exclusive. Hearing her sob on the other end of the line completely broke my heart. After processing the initial shock, Rachel asked me for Maggie's phone number. Awkward. She told me she didn't blame Maggie at all. She just wanted clarity and wanted to make sure that Maggie was okay too. After we hung up, the reality of the situation really hit us. Now, my husband and I are trying to figure out what to do about our wedding celebration next month. I am in shambles. My husband is completely distraught. He has strong morals and feels sick that he spent months defending her. And on top of everything else, work is going to be incredibly awkward for the 2 of them. Right, because Ralph and Maggie still work together. That's why she moved down here and she lives with him. Oh, geez. Like, people really just be creating the mess in their own lives, I don't feel bad. I feel bad for the other people involved, but not him. We're going back back to the comments because she also had a lot to say to some other people. First comment, respectfully, you put fire and gasoline together. How did you assure your friend for 2 years while he was sharing a livable space with another woman, even though unintentionally you have all gaslighted your friend to the moon and back? She will think you covered for him or something. You need to cut him immediately. Also, in 2 years, she never visited him. How did he hide Maggie? She said Maggie was always just known as a friend to all of the guys, including my husband. My husband and I were both reassured also by Ralph with multiple conversations. We had no idea this was happening. I never met Maggie until they moved up here. Maggie and Ralph have not been living together for 2 years. They moved in together when Ralph moved up here this year, so they had been living together for 4 months before we found out the truth. Okay. Yes, everyone thought it was a red flag that Ralph and Maggie lived together, but we were reassured by Ralph that it was just friends basis. We had too much trust in Ralph, and that breaks my heart. I hurt my best friend by telling her the worst news of her life. I'm not entirely coping well with all of it. Next comment. All you can really do is try to support Rachel from afar as best as you can. It's nice that you believe your husband has very strong morals, but I think whatever your husband decides to do about his friendship may be a good indicator of his true character. She said, agreed. I love and trust my husband with all of my heart. If he does decide to keep Ralph in the wedding, then I know he and I will sit down and have a very mature conversation. Yeah. I want to be there for it. Next comment. If your fiance keeps Ralph as his best man, I would question the man you plan to marry. A best man is supposed to guide and be of moral standing. Ralph is a liar, a manipulator to all of you for what? A double life? Your best friend Rachel, who is to stand up in your wedding, might not come and you will lose her completely. You will be complicit in that betrayal. It's not a I'll support whatever decision my fiance chooses situation. The simple truth is Ralph cannot be involved anymore. Your soon-to-be husband needs to step up and remove him from all wedding-related events. Because if he chooses Ralph, he chooses the and what does that say about your future? Oh, I'm curious what you guys think about this. If you think that he should or could still remain friends with him and not support his actions, or if staying friends with him is supporting his actions, let me know. I'm curious. She responded to that. She said, I agree, I will question a lot, but I also want this decision to be made by him since it is his wedding too and his side of the wedding party. He needs to have a good reason for what he decides. I guess I'm trusting him at this point that he will boot him out and do the right thing. Hopefully we find out by the end of the story. Next comment. I know you had no bad intentions, but you and your husband mismanaged this. You were vouching for a cheater and a liar, assuring his victim should not worry, based on nothing, and while circumstances were very suspicious. You apologized to him for telling his girlfriend the truth while he lied? What the heck? You definitely failed your friend. Now you are okay if your husband decided to stay friends with someone who has no morals and have him as a best man, while his victim is supposedly your friend and bridesmaid? Wow, what a friend you are. Who needs enemies with friends like you? Oh!
Oh my God!
People are hot. They're not hot. They're coming in hot. I'm just assuming they're hot. They're coming in hot. Dang, okay. She responded and said, I was reassured by Ralph that it was a misunderstanding. I did fail my friend. I called her so much and she kept me updated on her relationship and how she was managing it. I asked them both about how things were constantly. Everything seemed great from both of them. My husband and I also encouraged Rachel to start prepping and applying for jobs to get up here, which she did, and Ralph supported that. Next comment. Wait, after all of this, you would still have him in your wedding if your husband still wants him as a best man? I would think real hard before marrying a man that would want a person like Ralph around after this. She said, I don't want Ralph in the wedding. I want my husband to make that decision because it's his side of the wedding party. But if he comes back and says, I want him there, I'm still gonna be friends with him, he's my best man, are you gonna allow? It's also your wedding. Tricky, tricky. Better you than me. Next comment. Rachel wasn't pissed at you for knowing everything and never telling her. You and your husband both suck so hard. Oh, I do want to know how many days after it all broke that he broke up with her. Like, what was the timeline there? How long did they know this for? Oh, she responded, oh my gosh, maybe if I just
Shut up and read.
She responded and said I told her the day after it happened. I couldn't tell her right when it happened because of the time difference that we have. Next comment, I heard something that says, friends of cheaters need to normalize the absolute boundary of cutting off all ties, work and personal, not socializing in any group or one-on-one form because it does and will allow excuses and the buts as opposed to simply highlighting the deception and understanding that it's seeped into all of the relationships, even when you can't immediately see or feel it. It's not the job of the group to make it right. If and when the cheater does, then there may be space for honest talks and reconciliation. But that is up to the cheater to do the work. I worry you will fall victim to kill the messenger situation kind of thing. Also, why in the world would your fiance keep him as a best man when that in itself is highly ironic and just wrong? At the very least, how and in what aspect would you want him in your home and eating at your table, let alone standing up at your wedding ceremony? Like, let him eat, just not at your table, and definitely not your wedding cake. That is totally hypocritical, and if you did, you are literally supporting him. See, some people see it that way. That's why I wanted to see what you guys thought. She responded and said, my husband was completely blindsided by his best friend and needed a minute to process the grief and shock before setting that boundary with him. I agree with you, and I have zero intention of supporting or excusing what Ralph did. And last comment, someone said, is Rachel in your bridal party or an attendee at your wedding? Does everyone else in your circle know everything? Words are one thing, it's actions that prove intentions, character, and doing the right thing. What if your fiance's actions do not align with yours? Lots to unpack here. She said Rachel is a bridesmaid. Everyone in the circle back home is just starting to know that Rachel is telling anyone and everyone that they are over and what a scumbag he is. I want my husband to make the decision himself with no influence based on what I want. It is his wedding too. I'm hoping and praying he boots him. We will have a mature conversation and talk like adults if he decides otherwise. I have the feeling like people of Reddit are basically saying, don't even give him the option and just say, I don't want him at our wedding and he won't be at our wedding. That's what I'm gathering from this. We have a final update, so we are going to get the details on that decision. But first, you know the drill. All aboard hydration station. We gotta drink our water. Look, I only got a little bit left. Cheers. I love when I finish a cup of water. It feels like an accomplishment, you know, like another one down the hatch. Doing something good for my body.
Say hello to our friends. Say hello to our friends. Oh, they're in the camera. They're not here. Oh, but I bet you wish they were. I bet you wish they were. Oh, thank you. That's so nice, but that's so stinky. You guys stinky mouth. Oh.
Final update, get your final guesses in if he's gonna be at the wedding or not. I don't think so. I've read a lot of comments and wow, I am aware that I let Rachel down. I unknowingly supported a cheater and a liar for years, but I also didn't know that this was going on. I still feel gross though. For everyone claiming my husband had to know because they lived together back in college, my husband and I were doing long distance while he was focused entirely on his degree and our relationship. I was focused on my education and being an athlete. Ralph lived on a completely different floor of the house while my husband stayed in the basement. My husband is the type of guy who minds his own business and focuses on his own life. He wasn't tracking who was sneaking through Ralph's bedroom window on the floor above him, nor was he keeping tabs on Ralph's guest list. Ralph hid his double life from everyone, including his best friend. My husband genuinely did not know. I have been checking on Rachel constantly and just being there for her. We talked. Her and Maggie have been talking over the phone, both getting clarity and digging through every lie that Ralph told both of them. I'm glad they are now able to support each other. Now on to the update. Moment of truth. My husband just called me from work and told me that Ralph had pulled him aside to talk right when they got in this morning. Ralph apologized for lying to him all these years and for hurting everyone involved. My husband then told me the boundary he set. Ralph is officially out of the wedding party. He told Ralph he is still invited to attend the ceremony, but not the reception, and he will not be standing by his side as best man. Honestly, I wasn't prepared for how heavy that decision would feel. My heart broke for my husband. Ralph was his best friend, the guy he trusted the most, and seeing Ralph destroy that friendship and break his trust has been devastating. As hard as it is to process, I know my husband made the right call. He is completely drained and told me he doesn't want to talk about it anymore for now. He did mention one last detail though. Ralph said he wants to talk to me and apologize, but my husband told him to just back off and give me space because of how furious I am about what he did to Rachel. Ralph was like a brother to me. I genuinely believed that he looked up to our marriage, and I fully believed that Rachel was his endgame. Realizing how wrong I was about him has made me feel like I actually never knew him at all. I want to clear something up for the people commenting that my husband must have known. We genuinely had no idea. If we had known anything, Ralph would have been cut off and out of our lives a long time ago, and Rachel would have known the truth immediately. Even knowing we did the right thing once we found out, I still feel a heavy sense of guilt for being so blind to all of it. My husband actually called Rachel to personally apologize the other night for not seeing through Ralph's lies sooner and for defending him when red flags started popping up. Rachel has our complete and absolute support. I honestly braced myself for her to need distance from me. I was terrified she might associate me with Ralph's behavior or resent me for not catching it sooner. Surprisingly, that hasn't happened at all. She made it clear that our friendship is solid, and she still fully intends to stand by my day as my bridesmaid next month. In fact, she even joked about bringing Maggie as her date to the wedding just to rub it in Ralph's face. Oh my God, please. Please do that. I am forever grateful for her grace and for our friendship. This entire ordeal has been a nightmare, but seeing who really shows up for each other when the dust settles has meant everything. We have one top comment. I'm curious if it's either positive or negative. Let's go back to the Reddit comments. Someone said, your husband did not do the right thing. He is still friends with the cheater and he invites him to your wedding. How is that doing the right thing? What is your heart breaking for? So both of you are the most blind, unaware people with no ability to draw conclusions from the things you did not and still were convincing Rachel he was not cheating, despite both having reasons to believe so and tons of signals to the contrary, and making no effort to check. Having 5-minute convos with Maggie would have been, yeah. Well, Maggie's only been there for 4 months, and it just, I guess, never came up because they didn't think anything of it. I don't know. Oh my gosh, I guess. Like, really, one conversation with Maggie could change anything. How's it going living with him? Is it weird living with him when he has a girlfriend? Like, anything. Great job keeping fingers crossed for your marriage with cheater's best friend and for Rachel to find a better friend. Maybe she already did in Maggie. People are not happy. People are not happy about this. OP responded and said, Ralph is not invited to the wedding anymore, but in your update, you said he was. My heart broke for my husband because he spent years trusting a best friend who turned out to be a sociopathic liar to everyone, including us. We weren't convincing Rachel of anything malicious. We were operating on the assumption that a close friend wouldn't lie to our face. Once I had real information from Maggie, I told Rachel the truth. Rachel knows my heart, knows we were manipulated too, and is still standing up as my bridesmaid. So now she's saying he's not invited anymore, but you just said he wasn't invited to the wedding. Well, not to the wedding, to the ceremony. Not to the wedding reception, to the ceremony. Let me know your thoughts, you guys. I'm very curious on all of this. Stay classy out there. Stay classy, stay sassy. See you in the comments. Go on, get.